Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today we're going to have some 80s fun. Of course, taking this time at least three movies from the 80s that kind of have tropes that are similar to each other and have some fun with it. So we're going to talk about Cyborg, Soldier, and Solo, and I guarantee you each of you can come up with a half a dozen other examples from this era. Yeah, we're going to take those and shitlord is like, goody, finally some real shit. We had some fun with this. All right, so guys, thank you very much. For those who do not know, of course, this is technically a tabletop role-playing uh, broadcast. We like to talk about those things, and we're taking media, television, especially movies, and taking ideas from those and then expanding upon them. And Shice is like Slipstream is another good bad one. Yeah, there's a ton of these out there that even if we were young and we enjoyed them, we take a look back and go, it's my favorite, but we can see how cheap the productions were and such. So I decided to pull up the articles from Joe Blow that analyze some of these movies. And yeah, and Caligula, thank you very much there, Caligulus. It's like, yeah, any good Mad Max ripoffs out there? I don't know if there's any good ones, but there's this era of sub-genre action movies where the plots are taken from old spaghetti westerns. You have the lone semi-grizzled gunman who's pulled into a a plot of a pretty thin plot of revenge, and you slap on top of it some innocent that needs to be saved, and you're done, right? And then you have the props department like close their eyes and go back into the warehouse and start picking random things for people to wear, because some of the bad guys in these movies were just utterly ridiculous. I don't know why in the 80s we thought it was a good idea for people to wear like chainmail in a modern setting, but they did it. So yeah. Blade Runner, yeah, Taste of Benat says Blade Runner ripoffs. I don't know. I remember a movie called like Metal Storm. There's got to be a website that has someone's blog or something that lists a bunch of these straight to DVD, straight to VHS movies that were like ripoffs of these things, because like I was a big Blade Runner fan, and I remember the End King says I remember Solo watched Solo watched Michael Jordan on TV and said, I want to look exactly like him. The government said, okay, and then just made him look like the idiot he is. Are you sure you're talking about the same movies, the same Solo movie? Mario Van Peebles? There's one, yes. Anybody seen Straight to Hell? I don't remember that. Oh no, I don't remember that one. Okay, all right. So let's get into this. I was going to share some of the iconography, but I really can't, because some of the websites, there's so many pop-ups, it's ridiculous. So okay, we're gonna go first. We got to get into Cyborg. I was gonna bury the lead, but now we're gonna get right into Cyborg. So our main character in Cyborg is Van Damme. You got to have Jean-Claude Van Damme, and there's the quote from the bad guy that was listed yesterday. Like, I like death, I like misery, I like this world. And it's the end of a quote from the beginning of the movie by the bad guy, our villain. And it says, first, there was the collapse of civilization, anarchy, genocide, starvation. Then, when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, we got the plague. The living death quickly closed its fist over the entire planet. Then we heard the rumors that the last scientists were working on a cure that would end the plague and restore the world. Restore it? Why? I like the death. I like the misery. I like this world. And that essentially is the the concept of this like roaming band of this in this post-apocalyptic world where a plague has swept the world, and our grizzled hero Jean-Claude Van Damme takes place in it. Now, the strange thing about the movie Cyborg is its background. So, and it's pretty interesting about the background of this movie. It's technically not part of our tabletop experience, but it makes a lot of sense because if we pull from this movie how this movie was made, it's the same way we do things for our tabletop experience in our head. So let's get into it. So Cyborg has the esteemed distinction of being the last movie released by a movie company known as Canon Films. And Canon Films produced B movies like Superman 4, Over the Top, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, and things like that. And they were tasked with making a sequel to Dolph Lundgren's Master of the Universe and, believe it or not, a live-action Spider-Man. So in the late 1980s, the company had the rights to both franchises and boldly planned to shoot the two films simultaneously before their options ended. So an option is basically they have a certain amount of time to make a movie about a certain type of IP, intellectual property, and if they don't make it by that time, they lose the rights to do that kind of thing. So, for example, Sony has options for Spider-Man, which belongs to Marvel Studios. So as long as Sony keeps producing Spider-Man themed IP, they can use that IP legally. So anyway, this studio, if they don't film these movies from both having products from Mattel and Marvel, they're going to lose the money. So they said, so what's a failing studio to do after spending $2 million on pre-production on a pair of movies that will never be made? Most would use it as a tax write-off or try to collect some insurance, but Canon instead instructed an individual known as Albert Pyun or Pyan to come up with a new, much cheaper film that could utilize all the existing sets, costumes, and other materials that were already built. They gave the director a $500,000 budget, most of which went to Jean-Claude Van Damme, and told him he had a weekend to come up with an original script to try and recover their investment. The result of this desperate madness was 1989's Cyborg. So, listen, when we talk about like role-playing game, Solo, Caligula says, can anybody remember a single other line from Cyborg? The answer is no. The answer is no. Yeah. No, not. I know you're thinking of Shice. It's like Solo is literally the name of the movie, not a Star Wars story. Yeah. So the idea that a movie studio has two separate movies they're trying to film, Masters of the Universe and Spider-Man, they made these sets, they wrote up a bunch of stuff, and they're like, there's no way we're going to get these two movies off the ground in enough time, but we need to save some of this money. Over the weekend, write a script. And so the script writers were like, well, what's the most basic script we can have? Okay, revenge. We have a hero, revenge. And then it's like, well, what kind of set can we make? Let's put a bunch of barrels and smoke around and just make it post-apocalyptic. Great. We can get a bunch of abandoned cars and foam trash and make it look like the world's dead. Okay. Hey, props department and costume department, go around and find like random chainmail, plastic chainmail, and like a whole bunch of other things, and just strap them onto the bodies of like a bunch of stunt people in the background. And yeah, a bunch of trash fires they had, barrel fires and whatnot. And let's see, I'm going to share this out because this is definitely a 1980s image here. Let's see. Yeah, Rickenbacker versus Victor Tremel. I finally kind of get that. I finally kind of get that reference. So this is absolutely a 1980s bad guy look. Look at that. a bunch of people walking slowly with a fire in the background, so a little bit of smoke and some random clothing that for some reason, I guess in a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, Shai says, I actually like the scenery. Oh, no, no, no. In this description of this movie, they say, this person says that what do you say? Given the circumstances, Cyborg turned out pretty good, with all the credit to Payan for rescuing the production into something that's miraculously coherent and, more importantly, entertaining. If you know the backstory and pay attention, you might be able to spot a few seams, whether it's the wild outfits clearly pieced together from other costumes or reusing the same actors in multiple roles to save a buck. But overall, none of the behind-the-scenes drama shows up on screen, and the final product looks much more expensive than its paltry budget would suggest. And I would say that in comparison to here's another image of some makeup and little cyborg, because there is a cyborg in this movie. It's just not Jean-Claude Van Damme, which I was a little bit disappointed with that. I was like, isn't he supposed to be the cyborg? It's kind of weird. But when we create our tabletop role-playing experiences, sometimes it should behoove us to be like, you know what? Let me reuse a map. Let me re-flavor one of these quantum ogre storylines that I have. And honestly, we can piece together a bunch of dare I say, those who are scared to improv their gaming sessions. All unused prep is your improv fuel. So both over prepping and improv basically are one and the same. They blend together. So if you've written up a couple of like different types of interactions and you're like, I never got to use this map, I never got to use this bad guy, I never got to use this combat encounter that's supposed to be really dynamic because there's supposed to be a mudslide, and then there's these people that live in treetops, and you can come up with all kinds of stuff. It's like, yeah, throw it together. Maybe just maybe it's more interesting that way. Um, a good example of this is the world building in a role-playing game known as the Wild Sea, based on Powered by the Apocalypse. And Wild Sea is a world in which the entire surface of the world has been overtaken by overgrowth. This is a real role-playing game called Wild Sea. And in Wild Sea, the population sails on chainsaw ships over the tops of trees, and that there are miles, kilometers down to the bottom of the roots of these trees while people live in the foliage above. And if that ain't, hey, Le Crate, hello there. If that isn't a uh, person assembling a world based on like a few little concepts, what is? So for me, Cyborg is kind of like that kind of movie, right? Where it's like it finding out that it was um finding out that it was assembled by like bits and scraps and cheap money, then I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Now the cyborg in the movie of Cyborg is actually our innocent, it's our MacGuffin, kind of, and she holds the key to curing the plague. And apparently curing the plague will stop the post-apocalypse or something. That's actually won't even happen, but whatever. Yeah. Uh, Shai says, I actually like the scenery. And Tay says, is Cyborg the one that gave Van Damme such a chip on his shoulder? This is the beginning, because he had Bloodsport and then this movie. Not yet, but he very quickly, as an action star, a lot of people were like, you know, instead of our current action star, pick Van Damme instead. Instead of Kurt Russell, pick him. Instead of so and so, pick him. And yeah, his ego really exploded. Always wearing his Van Damme underwear, always having a split, always having a spinning kick, slow motion spinning kick. Um, he also had the ability to edit the movie, which is weird for someone who's beginning in their career. But he did have editing functions in it, which kind of, they say like there's far too many flashbacks of um of the bad guy torturing his family and daughter and stuff. But yeah. So this is the plot of Cyborg isn't very deep. But in tabletop role playing games, let's be honest, sometimes our players aren't very deep either. So but it does allow us to tie together our current plot in our tabletop games with our player character by saying, hey, listen, what traumatic event happened? Revenge is a classic story. That's where murder hobos come from. They're hobos because they don't have a place to live, and they're murderous because they want to take revenge on everybody. That because now they're orphans. Now they have to take revenge on the bad guy, and whether this is a 1-to-3 shot or something like that, fits in perfectly well. So now we're going to move over to Soldier. Now, Soldier is very similar to this, and this is a Kurt Russell movie. So, uh, Soldier was made in 1998. Something I actually really like about this movie, Soldier, is that, and it's one of these B movies, and it's definitely a Kurt Russell pushed movie. And let's see if I can find the overview. Here we go. Soldier has the following synopsis. So here we go. Todd has been trained since birth through brutal conditioning to be an emotionless killing machine. After 40 years, and remember, this is a Kurt Russell movie. Kurt Russell is clearly older as an actor, and they use that as a feature in the movie, which I actually appreciate. After 40 years, Todd and his comrades are deemed obsolete, where Colonel Mekum promotes a new breed of genetically flawless soldiers. Discarded on the trash-covered planet of Arcadia 234, Todd is rescued by colonists Mace and Sandra, but he's soon forced to face his stronger replacements when the military seeks to wipe out the colony, which honestly in the movie is kind of ridiculous because they could have but anyway. So and let's see, Russell is joined in the cast by Jason Scott Lee, who's an excellent martial artist back at that time in the mid to late 90s. We got Jason Isaacs, Connie Nielsen, Sean Pertwee, Gary Busey, and Michael Chiklis, who were all really pretty fun. So what's this? So what ends up happening in this movie, which I really appreciated, was Kurt Russell commits to the emotionless robot to the point that, like, when he's having interactions with the people that live on his trash, like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, to everybody he meets, including like the young lady that saves his life. And there's some really cool visual imagery. Let me see if I can find let's see if I can find a picture of it. Movie. There's this movie where there's a scene where they show trash being dumped onto the planet, and it's actually really cool to see that. Now, I don't know if a real trash planet would look like this. Ooh, yeah, we're gonna share this out. So, and let's see. Boop, boop, boop. There we Anon says, yeah, Wild Sea isn't powered by the apocalypse, though. Its closest relative is Blades in the Dark, but even that's not exactly descriptive. Also, it's one of the best design RPGs ever created. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm with you. From top to bottom with that. I agree with you. I mean, the argument of like the origins of Blades in the Dark from the it's basically the 2d6 yes, no, and or but system. uh, but yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a permutation of it, and it is one of the best design RPG. Not just the way it's designed, but like the dude. Yeah, you're out there. But all right, so next to my head, next to the right, the left, sorry, to the right of the page, to the left of my face, is this image of this trash planet where here's a big giant ship. It comes down there, it dumps all this trash, and guess what? Our main character is dumped down there with the trash. See if I can find any more of these other scenes. It's dumped down there with the trash, just like everyone else. And I think that's kind of cool with these survivors that are living in this trash planet. Now, in Obsidian Star, the TTRPG that I'm designing, would there be a moon or some place like that where trash is being dumped? Maybe. Depending on, I think you would need a lot of gravity and maybe a breathable atmosphere. Although I suppose if you dump enough trash, breathing the atmosphere will be problematic at a certain point. But yeah, and let's see if there's another image. Let's see if I can put this one up. It's very difficult to see. Oh, there it is. I love this matte painting in the background. Looks like two suns and like smog. And then where the cursor is, there's our hero. Um, uh, yeah, elite soldiers get dumped on a waste planet after being replaced by genetically engineered soldiers. And uh, what I love about the plot and what we could steal from this plot is the fact that in a story, like our main characters represent whatever the game that we're playing, right? So they can be, we have our stats. Yeah, Trash Planet, they must have had to work too hard for those sets. Nah, they were just like, hey, set designers, dump a bunch of stuff, and then we'll just get an orange filter, put it over the camera, and we're done. Hey, someone paint a matte painting that looks sepia colored in the background. You use a lot of oranges and browns and reds. You're done. So in this movie, our player characters, if they are very closely related to being human, we get our player characters design their characters, and of course, our bad guys are designed that are bigger and better and tougher, right? They're genetically altered. They're not just tough human beings like you are, who have supplanted their emotions. They're bigger and better. And I really like the turn of what Kurt Russell did, um, as as opposed to Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's basically like this after his family is murder killed, he becomes this roaming bounty hunter, mercenary out for revenge. The character of that Kurt Russell plays in Soldier is he's basically a soldier that's thrown out, but the only skills he has are combat, to the point where when he meets these survivors that live on this trash planet, he doesn't even know what it means to even have a regular normal conversation. He's so unfamiliar with being treated humanely that he slowly learns to get his humanity towards the end of the movie. And it's very much a lone wolf and cub situation where you have the hardened soldier um, slowly starts to come around, but then the soft and inclusive population, even though they're surviving in this harsh world, learn from this soldier who's gonna protect them when these genetically engineered soldiers come down to the trash planet to basically eliminate the colony. Don't know why they didn't nuke these people from orbit, but whatever. Yeah, Caligula says the impossibility of two suns. Movie makers can't figure it out. Listen, listen, Caligulus, you you keep your logic out of my matte paintings, okay? I know double moons, double suns. People forget that like it's very difficult to have a circular orbit around two high gravity objects, but whatever. Yeah. Yeah, Anon says, funny how new players get confused as to why the Avatar RPG is powered by the apocalypse, though. Yeah, because they're just like, what does that mean? When it just happens to be the words we use to describe a thing because it came first. But yeah, yeah. And King says, if we're talking about good bad movies, I wonder if Ghosts of Mars would be good for Obsidian. Maybe. I forgot about Ghosts of Mars too. And you know what? It's funny how even till today, we still hold on to these like mythological imagery of like what Mars was or could be or will be or something, rather than a scientific exploration of Mars, which I'm still following kind of. But long story short, Soldier is really great, and they're something that I would love to an homage to Soldier, maybe if I don't use the word steal, is the training regiment that really crushed the soul out of our main character, Soldier. um, I like the idea of that in a sense of using it as a question for the future, meaning like we know that hardships, trauma, struggle, as I mentioned this before, really makes us as humanity grow. But if we make a utopia, does that mean we will no longer struggle and fight for to push ourselves, to evolve ourselves mentally, socially, economically, spiritually, whatever? I don't know. It does bring across that point. Like, at what point does hard work uh, and forced scarcity make someone or break someone? And our main character, the soldier, w- becomes better for having had his soul returned to him to gain some semblance of warmth. And listen, Kurt Russell holds on to the like emotionless soldier thing right up to the very end of the movie. Like they're right up to it's pretty cool how it's done because he starts to crack a little bit and you give a slow clap like yeah, especially when you know like one of the there's no quite love interest, which I like about the movie, but within it there is a like there the young lady is starting to fall for him, and he's just like yes sir, no sir. She's trying to get close to him. Yeah, pretty hilarious. And also, I mean, it is a little weird to see him like injured, but he has no emotion on his face and stuff like that. But yeah, he's a tough ass good guy here to stop the bad guys and such. So let us flow over to another movie. And yeah, I'll share this out. I think you can see it. So let's flow over to our third B movie here during these action movies. And this one is called Solo. And the plots, the characters, these all seem very similar. And there's a good reason for having tropes. I understand that we all want to think we're bigger and better than the tropes that we use, but there's a reason why they're tropes because they work. So in the movie Solo, let's see about am I actually sharing this out? Yes. So this was made in 96. You would think Soldier would have come first, but no, the movie Solo came first. So this is Mario Van Peebles. So Solo is an android designed as a military killing machine. He is sent to Central America by General Hayes to battle guerrilla insurgents. But a flaw develops in his programming, and he develops a conscience and compassion. His developers try to take him back for deprogramming, but he flees into the jungle in a helicopter. His main energy supply was damaged during the first mission, forcing him to switch to his much less powerful secondary power unit. He joins a small village community that is under constant threat from guerrilla attackers, and he protects them in exchange for use of their electric generator. They previously used to power a television. There, he learns to bluff from a child that befriends him named Miguel. Solo helps the villagers drive off local warlord Rio and his small army, but the combat is detected by a military satellite. Uh-oh, that means we got to get Solo back. A Black Ops team is sent to recover or destroy Solo while they ally with Rio, who's the local warlord. The highly sadistic Black Ops leader, Colonel Frank Madden, who has an intense hatred for Solo, as he sees Solo renders the Black Ops members like him out of a job, brings in Dr. Bill Stewart, Solo's creator, as a lure, leaving the man mortally wounded, but Solo survives. So, having occupied the village, the militiamen, and Black Ops team attempt to kill Solo, but he manages to kill them all. So, Solo, again, lone warrior, given some kind of advantage over everyone else. If it's not martial arts, it's superior military training, like in Soldier. And then we move up to being an actual android that needs to be powered by electricity in this movie Solo. But in each of these, although each one has stepped up a little further, let's see, can we make this a little bigger? No. Okay. So in each step, our main character, despite the fact that in many ways they kind of have the same exact capabilities, Van Damme's just a human guy walking around a post-apocalyptic world. Uh, in Soldier, Kurt Russell, he's trained in a regime to turn him into the perfect soldier. And then in Solo, we have an android that makes the leader of this Black Ops team feel like, feel a little self-conscious because he's like, these androids are going to take over for us normal human beings. Of course, our android learns to have some compassion. We see this a lot. Lone Wolf and Cub. There's other versions of the Lone Wolf and Cub trope where you have the lone wolf, the character that only knows how to battle, who ends up, learning compassion and getting a soft side, and then using that power to overtake their enemies, and learning from the innocent, whatever that innocent is. And it's also a great way to introduce our player characters, right? Because especially in Soldier and in Solo, these characters are pretty much dumped into their arena. We don't really know exactly where they came from, what their lifestyle was. All we know is they got badass skills and they physically get dumped into their locations. And that's a good way to start like a one shot. Like, hey guys, make characters. You all get dumped onto a trash planet. Hey everybody, make characters. Your ship gets destroyed and you get dumped onto the pitch black planet or something like that. It also makes a really good circumstance movie rather than a themed entourage movie. So what I mean by a circumstance movie or show or TTRPG, and I'll get into your comments in just a moment, co-host. But a circumstance is everyone makes a random assortment of characters that don't have a connection, but the circumstance bonds them together. A bus crash, a spaceship or habitat that falls out of orbit and lands somewhere, a city that gets destroyed, and there are a bunch of survivors working together. These are odd bedfellows come together because of a circumstance that brings them together, and that's where you can have a lot of different. You in fantasy where you get a bunch of like furries that come from different parts. So you're like, why is there a drow elf and a giant and a tiefling and a halfling? And like, why are these people together? And it's not just because they're friends, but circumstances push them together. And the being dumped into your danger is always a great method to do that. Guys, all of you gather together your belongings after the starship crashed. You know, hilarity ensues, right? So that's very common. Now, what you guys said, Anon says, that's an excellent question. Some people just seem to inherently have the drive to be more than they are, regardless of circumstances. And uh, today we are in the midst of arguing about this kind of concept because as technology gets better and we move forward, every generation has a, I'll dare say, softer, more productive life than the people behind us. We love to talk about our ancestors having it good and they were tougher and such, but we forget that their lifespans were short as shit, right? Like a lot of times we're just like, we don't need what is it? We don't need inoculations against things our ancestors survived. And like, no, they didn't. They died at half our age, right? There's a reason why like 16 and 18-year-olds started major corporations because they were dead by 45. So our lifespans are increasing and lengthening out, so we have more time to do a thing. And there's a sizable chunk of us first worlders, especially us in the States, that look at everyone and go, you guys are soft. Like I mean, there has to be credit to preppers and the online community that's about toughening oneself to learning how to fish and survive and things like that. There are people, like you said, Anon, that they inherently will push themselves through hardships to get better, no matter how easy their life is. But let's be honest, if we had universal basic income, which it seems that the more and more machines take jobs away from people and the larger the population becomes unemployable because there isn't a place for them to go. Uh, um, yeah, shitlord says, "Oh, he just peppered the thread." Yeah, I sure did. The question does come about. All right, so what do you do with these people? And there's an idea of giving people money because we are, as citizens, our job is to become consumers. We do our countries the best when we keep the circulation of monies flowing. When we constantly spend and earn, spend and earn, spend and earn, we actually are better citizens because we keep the economy going. So if you give people money, you hope that they spend it and then try to earn it and spend and earn it. And then if they can't earn it, it's called universal basic income, UBI. So now, how much money should people get? Some say it should start out as like $1,000 a month here in the States. Some say it should go as high as $50,000. It's crazy. And when you say that to people, the first thing that puts in their mind is like, what? Just pay people to be on their lazy asses? That's stupid, right? You're just going to get a bunch of drug addicts and lazy people. And it's like, well, the first answer to that is yes. But the next answer is maybe not. Like, if today, and I don't mean the general public, I mean you, if somebody paid your all your you paid your housing, your food, your transportation, slight entertainment, just a little bit on the edge, what would you do with your time? Like, if you could do anything and get paid for that thing, you're getting paid, you get to decide what you want to do. What would you do? And that's the big question about UBI. Most of us think everybody else will be lazy asses, but for ourselves, we'd go, oh, I would, and we would fill in the blank of that thing. I would pursue a singing career. I would become a professional dungeon master. I would learn to play, I don't know, professional frisbee or something, whatever. The End King says these days people can empathize more with that Black Ops leader. AI threatening to take our jobs, awful. Exactly, exactly. And back in the day when cars took away horses, people could then be retrained to build cars and maintain automobiles and design them and build the roads and maintain the roads. And so we have an infrastructure based on one thing that replaced the other thing. But now it's like when machines take away people's jobs, it's very difficult for those people to go somewhere else. So yeah. Yeah, Shice is like, yeah, secure the bag, Yang. Yeah, Yang. Get a little, don't get too political. But yes. Um, Anon says, funny then how the premise of the day the earth stood still involves super robot police, not even the ruling body has control over. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Quato? I can't remember the name of that giant robot. But yeah, how the robots or in the machines were going to take over the nuclear weapons, and if we're not careful, we might nuke ourselves out of existence and such. Yep, yep, yep. Warning, one of a number of very, very popular warning humanity about what the Earth is going to be back in the 60s, 70s. Yeah, just like a bunch of them. Schindler says, y'all just broke the Ander doctrine. Yep. And Anon says, the Universal Soldier sequel should be called a Universal Employee. Oh, no. Yes, the Universal Soldier movies. Damn, I forgot about those. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, let me see if I can find some pictures of this. I was trying to remember. I was like, um, I know that let's share this out. Here we go. Yeah. The Universal Soldier movies. I was like, didn't Van Damme? Didn't Van Damme star in a bunch of these flicks? Let's see. Let's move this up just a little bit. Universal Soldier in '92. I remember, and I was like, I thought the movie was Soldier. I don't know why it was on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't remember it. Universal Soldier was yet another movie about a soldier. Let's say Universal Soldier is a series of military science fiction films. The franchise began in '92 with Universal Soldier, and as of 2012, comprises 6 entries. The films center on the character of Luke Devereaux into Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning, which focuses on a new protagonist named John. And Van Damme was in 92, and then of course shows back up in Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning in 2012. Does he show up in any of these other movies? I don't see it. But yeah, one soldier, uh, how to watch the Universal Soldiers in order. Do we really even need to know that? Well, you've watched them in order, I guess. How do you watch them in order? You watch them in order. Yeah, that's awesome. But again, simple premise. You take a character, you know that they're a badass. They're usually combat oriented. Skill. You dump them somewhere exotic, so you have a lot of exotic location things, whether they're in a desert or a jungle or volcanic area. Of course, in science fiction, you can dump them on alien planets. Um, the great thing for me about exotic locations is you can tweak the rules of surviving there. So maybe you need special breathing apparatus, or the gravity is different, or we get the double moons or double suns. I'm looking at you there, and King, and the rest of you guys. But yeah, double moons, double suns. Maybe there are creatures in the background, or there's like acidic lakes, or I don't know, it rains black sludge, or there's electrical storms, or something like that. And also, you can have some fun with the NPCs that live in this place. And of course, our soldier might, it might behoove them to use some of their social skills to uh, blend in with the environment socially, to learn to live with the natives that are here. And then we get to use our exploration skills by being in this exotic location. And then, of course, our bad guy is dropped into this exact same exotic location, and then combat ensues. And maybe our main character, our player characters, have learned from exploring and use that exploration to use that against our bad guy. So very simple plots, but for tabletop role playing games, yeah, it's a pretty good go to. It's a really good go to. And mind you, again, you know, while we love to talk about some of the best movies from like the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, there were a lot of like straight to VHS, straight to DVD. Today, these would be straight to streaming movies, and this was the era of the very few words, one-liners, action star who basically had like a six-pack worked out, learned a couple of martial arts moves, um, really exemplified directors who some could, some couldn't really capture action very well. Um, and this was before shaky cam came in, and this really borrowed from those of us here in the States, especially, borrowed from Far East Asia martial arts movies and tried to bring that flavor over into the United States. To some success. There were some movies where it was basically the heroes stood in the middle of the street and just start firing their guns as if they would be immune to other bullets being aimed back at them, which I always thought was just, it always took me out. It became really quickly ridiculous. There was always usually a love interest, some young lady that ends up getting has a little bit of grime on her face, runs around, and then it ends up getting captured by the bad guy, and then gets cleaned up and dressed in some kind of scantily clad outfit, and screams for the good guy to come save her. That's a very, very common trope. Uh, there's some hilarious imagery. Sorry, side note. There's some hilarious imagery where comic book artists took Hawkeye from the Marvel comics and drew him in the positions that they would draw the females. Sorry, it just came to my mind, and it's pretty hilarious. There's some pretty hilarious, like the ladies always have their ass out and they're like looking over their shoulder, or like their legs are spread or something like that. It's pretty hilarious. Hawkeye drawn like that. I forget when it was. This is like early or mid 2000s that came out, I believe. It's funny. Yeah, Shai says hero getting grazed and shaking it off is even more suspense. suspension of belief disrupting. How many times? Listen, okay. For some reason, I suppose if you played you, there are many movie emulating role playing games, but one of my favorite, actually two of my favorite, one is called HCAT, Hong Kong Action Hong Kong Action Theater, HCAT, HKAT, and but my favorite is Feng Shui. No, not about moving furniture to get the proper implants in your room. Feng Shui is about these Feng Shui sites, these mystical sites, and it embraces the Hong Kong action character. And you are so right there, Hunt, about the idea of the character. Listen, we can name right now all the best places our characters get shot and stabbed and right. First, okay, let's do our top 10. The dislocated shoulder trope, right? Someone falls, gets attacked, a robot grabs them, they fall through a tree line, they get thrown through a wall, there's an explosion that goes off, and guess what? Their shoulder is dislocated, and they're like, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" And they either one of their friends pulls the shoulder back in, and they take the pain, or they smash it up against some kind of hard bulkhead or something, and they take the pain. We also have we also have the shot through the body, the through and through, but we're just going to wrap something around like our midsection or our arm, and we're just going to keep on fighting. We have the I just survived torture by having something pierced through my hand or arm, but I'm gonna still keep running and punching people literally with the fist that has the thing punctured through it. We have the I just got impaled, but I'm gonna use that impalement and use it as a weapon. So we've had that plenty of times with an arrow or a dagger, a blade or a sharp piece of shrapnel that gets put into my kidney, but I can still fight. I'm gonna pull that out and then stab it in the eye of the bad guy, right? We have the I got shot in the leg and I'm stumbling, but somehow I can still do a spinning kick with the same leg. uh yes, very much. How many concussions have good guys given the bad guys by hitting them in the back of the head with the butt of a gun? Yeah, there's a lot of brain damage that goes around. Uh yeah, Taste of Banana says we're picking film. We're big impalements of we're big fans of impalement. I'm sorry. All right, Mr. I live over in Vlad the Impaler's home place of Transylvania, or very close to it. You're so silly. You're so dumb. I love it. Yeah. By the way, the super robot police were the good guys given the power to enforce principles and doctrine without corrupt human influence, sort of like an irrevocable trust, only with phaser eyes. I wonder. That's okay. That's getting included in Obsidian Star. The idea that there is a fear that we have as humanity of making robots and AI, electronic digital systems that are so pure that they overcome even our fallible senses and enforce rules um, that even we can't hold ourselves up to. Yeah. Yeah, the Yanking says, "I'm a Batman fan. I think about the concussion thing a lot." I know that's the Batman argument. Like Batman's, it's the Batman doesn't kill, and I just shake my head like, okay, sure, you say that, but he's put a lot of people in permanent traction, right? One of my favorite movie pundits talks about how Batman has probably killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people in his career because how many car accidents and grenades has he thrown into rooms and closed the door. Now, mind you, most of these people deserve it, right? But he was talking about how Batman jumped from like a 3-story building with his knees landing on the chest of a bad guy with his cloak out. And it's like, there's no way a 230-pound all muscle dude lands on somebody else's back or their chest or something and doesn't murder kill that person or put them in permanent traction at a hospital or whatever, like permanently breaking their back. It's like, yeah, Batman's we in cartoons we love to say in the background, like with the GI Joe cartoon and thing like that. Airplane falls and you see the people parachute out. It's like they didn't kill them. It's like okay, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Caligula. I mean, listen, a bunch of people died in the hospital after Batman got through with them. How many punctured lungs, heart palpitations, brain damage, permanent disability. I mean, there's a lot of people getting themselves some SSI checks and whatnot, disability checks and everything. Caligula says, I have heard that getting knocked unconscious will leave you with permanent brain damage. Can anybody verify this? I don't know if that's a universal, but like I have a friend of the family, a young lady that had an accident on an ATV, and her personality changed. She got knocked out, she recovered, she had a little bleeding on the brain, and her personality changed. She even knows her personality changed. She's the same person, but there's like an edge to her. Her empathy decreased, and yeah, yeah, it's just we accept it now, but the personality change was kind of jarring because when you speak to somebody who has the same memories but has a different outlook on the very thing that they used to have an outlook on, it can be jarring when you have that transition. So yeah, Gotham is full of crazy people because Batman keeps hitting them in the head. That's so wrong. Oh no, Arkham Asylum is like, yep, got another person with a big old knot in the back of their head. All right. But all right, let's get back into the tropish trope thing, right? So um having these 80s movies like Cyborg, let me share this back out here again. Movies like Cyborg, movies like Soldier and the Universal Soldier movies, these were basically let's use our modern sensibilities, but go back to the old westerns. The we remember the old westerns, right? The gunslinger with the man with no name, the gunslinger with a shady past that we really don't need to know their past. We just know that they're a badass. We have at least one scene that shows that they're a badass, even if they don't want to engage in their badassery anymore. But they keep getting pulled back in, and of course, they have a heart of gold. The Mad Max movies are a perfect example of the I'm a cold ass individual, but I have a heart of gold. Oh, Wolverine, the character, the Marvel character, is very much a lone wolf and cub character, right? Here's this, he's a badass, and a lot of people love the badassery of him. But Wolverine, he's a lone wolf cub character. He's the lone wolf, but how many young people has he adopted? How many times has he been like, I don't need to hang around you guys, blah, blah, blah. And he leaves. And what happens? He comes back because I need to save you and whatnot. And that's actually kind of a good thing, right? Um, as we as players and game designers and embracing the idea that first of all, our characters should be badass. I mean, really, they should be a badass. So give them the opportunity. Minions, um, soldiers, what sometimes they call is like mooks, cannon fodder. Give them a bunch of people to beat their ass. Give them an opportunity to shine. If somebody's got both guns blazing and they want to jump through the air in slow motion and blow a bunch of people away, give them the opportunity to do that. If there's somebody who's got like a mono vibratory blade and they want to slice through a bunch of people in zero gravity, leaving behind globules of like blood and viscera and such, let them do it. Then, of course, we have ourselves the PCs who should grab onto the plot hook. It's like, you need to save the innocent people, right? Go ahead and save the innocent people. And then we have the MacGuffin that's going to solve the whole thing. Now, in a lot of Westerns, there really isn't a MacGuffin. And it's not about changing the world, it's about changing the lives of the few people that they meet along the way, along the pathway. And just like Mad Max, and just like Soldier and Universal Soldier and Solo and Cyborg, um, sometimes it's just protecting that small community. Now, unfortunately, we do have our tabletop role playing community filled with a lot of sociopaths who are like, innocent people, F them. I'm just a badass person who doesn't get, who has no emotions and isn't affected by anything. So, in that case, you might want to show the penalties of ignoring the innocent people. Of course, not going into too much description, but often they are tortured and murder killed by our bad guys, and our innocence may hold the key for the players to gain some sort of advancement, whether it is a weapon, a social advancement, maybe some kind of exploratory thing that allows them to navigate this exotic place they got dumped into that they normally wouldn't be able to navigate around. And so, yeah, reward them for not hurting the innocent people, and then reward them for punching the bad guys in the throat. Taste of Banat says, an edge to her. Was she in a bad mood all the time? What do you mean? I'm uncertain where that came from. What did I? I know if you knock someone out, their brain will freak out and try to wake up immediately. That's not what you want if you're stealthing through a compound. Yeah, the whole knocking somebody in the back of the neck to knock them out thing that always works in action movies is a thing that doesn't work in real life. It's not like you knock them out and go, I need them to be out for 28 minutes. Boop. Tick, 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 tick. This worked perfectly. Yeah. How about Batman breaks his hand trying to knock out a cyborg? I don't know how many times he's done that, but there have been times when that's happened. I remember Batman having a hard time with a parademon, and then Superman coming in and taking like a couple hundred parademons and just tossing them miles away. Fender Tremello got impaled on a fishhook. Taste is like, that ain't no real impaling. Give me a break. All right, Taste, you know all about the impaling. I'm going to presume you're a fan of the impaling through the sphincter, the rectum sphincter, on a pole slightly larger than a human's height until it pokes through their neck. I think you're probably a fan of that. Uh, Yeah. Oh, her edge. I apologize. Wow, how did I lose that? Does an edged her? Was she in a bad mood? No, no, no. She was actually very pleasant. Her personality was one of pleasantry and empathy, and she then got an edge after the accident. Um, so yeah, that's her. She actually became very impatient too, which was not like herself, which is yeah. But I was like, it's important to honor tradition. Listen, this is YouTube. I am not going to call up an image of people getting impaled through the sphincter. Oh, you're so funny. I love it. Have you seen anybody get knocked out in your martial arts work? No, but I did. I got knocked out. No, I got choked out. So and there is a weird collapse of time and space when you get choked out. And because I refused to tap out, and I got choked out, and it wasn't like, all I remember is like, um, bare naked choke around the neck. I'm gonna get out of this, and then all of a sudden, someone like taking their fist and rubbing my chest and like pounding on me, and I was like, "What the hell? What are y'all doing?" Never mind the fact that they were like, "You were probably out for like 2 minutes." I was like, "No, I wasn't," because I didn't. It went from closing the eyes and turning black and closing the eyes to immediately. It wasn't a gradual wake up. It was slow, slow, slow. Boom. Yeah. Is a chokeout more gentle on your brain than a knockout? I think it's more when gentle. I'm gonna say yes. Getting your airway because it blocks the air to your brain, so then your brain shuts your body down. Um, that ends up when you get a bare naked choke chokes you from the sides, so it cuts off the blood. I'm sorry, it cuts off the blood flow. The oxygen flows through the throat, but it cuts off the blood flow. I apologize, it's the opposite. So when it cuts off the blood flow, your brain just goes, for your safety, we need to shut this down. So yeah, you were out for a whole 2 minutes. I thought people in real life only went unconscious for a matter of seconds. It's probably because the person had they had their they were locked in on me, and they probably didn't let go until somebody got them off of me. So that's probably what happened. They said it was like 2 minutes. I don't know. I didn't even go to the hospital, which I probably should have. But yeah, I was a little dazed, and did I suffer some damage? Maybe. Uh, but no, I didn't go to the hospital. The cops weren't called or nothing like that. They say it was like 2 minutes because I didn't wake up, and they were like, "You got to wake up!" Smack, 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 rub on the chest, that kind of thing. And they told me they knew I was knocked out. Like I wasn't dead. I was knocked out. I was breathing, but I just was unresponsive. But yep, happened to me once. I had been bare naked choked. I don't know, a dozen times, 2 dozen times. Uh, yeah, there's a panic thing that happens when someone's arm gets ready to go around your throat, and it's hard to fight against it, which almost makes it happen, which is really weird. But that's just enough about me. Guys, I've taken too much of your time. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. I think tomorrow we're going to do Tenet. Have some fun with Tenet. I happen to love the movie Tenet. I understand some people don't find it it's not one of their favorite Nolan movies, but I really appreciate the cinematography, the unique storytelling element of it. I even love the MacGuffin, which is just like one of these unexplainable. Like I love unexplained MacGuffins. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It says, "Wow, getting knocked out without drugs." Yep, 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 yep. It's the difference between oxygen deprivation and traumatic brain injury. Yeah, yeah. I've been I felt like I've gotten punched in the face in the head a couple of times that I think kind of rocked me a little bit. But I think anybody that gets their brain like you know shaken in any way does get the little airbaggy method. Your brain accelerates and then stops, and then I'm sorry, your skull accelerates and then immediately stops, and then your brain in its gel bumps up against the inside. So your brain is like a car. I'm sorry, your skull is like a car, your brain is you inside that car getting bounced around. So yeah. Yeah. But we just did Tenant yesterday. We should do the show backwards. You know what? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. We'll do the show backwards. Tomorrow. It would be ridiculous to do that. All right, guys. Hey, have a great one today, and then go backwards from there. I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just pulled you guys into it, but whatever. Sorry, I gave that away. That's my problem with talking openly. Oh, uh, I'm before we get out of here, I'm going to answer a slight question that was brought up in terms of this game Obsidian Star. So, someone asked the question, is there psychic abilities in this hard sci-fi game? And I said no, but that's not technically true. So, um, for some reason, the N King loves Craniacs, which I don't know why, but good for you. We'll stick with it. There's a sect of individuals who have used nanotechnology, genetic engineering, drug therapy, cybernetics, and more to enhance their brains. Anything and everything to enhance their brains, to the point that there's an underworld where they buy, sell, and trade mechanisms to get their brains enhanced, like building your own computer at home. and the online community that does such a thing. They're basically brain hackers, and there are 12. I'm using the concept of being a genius. So some people say some people are smarter than others, but there's actually 12 or more types of intelligence, and these brill, these craniacs, these geniuses, these genes are individuals that capitalize on 12 types of intelligence, and some are specialists, some are polyglots in terms of the intelligence community. And so some of their intelligence is so high that it seems psychic, like precognitive abilities is just their ability to take lots of information and predict the future through mathematics. Some have spatial awareness, some have interpersonal connection awareness to say and do the right thing, or to lie detect based on information that they get in through their senses and things like that. So yeah, that's how it is. And exactly, Caligulus goes on and says, how about technological psych abilities, chips in your brain allowing telepathy, etc.? And that's exactly how it works, right? Like some people are, there's a mode of thought called noetics. Let's see if I can pull this up. Noetics. And noetics, the term noetic comes from, found this out. The term noetic comes from the Greek word noesis, that means inner wisdom, direct knowing, intuition, or implicit understanding. And part of noetics is learning how our brains can interact with technology. And some people are better at it than others. So, for example, we have old people who don't know how to operate a cell phone. I can't get the 12 flashing off of my VCR, where there are the young people who instantly know how to work a thing. These individuals are just so smart that they have an even greater ability to do a thing, to make a thing. So to them, what would you call, like uh, radio connections, connecting with the internet, called the tapestry. I might change the name of it. Interfacing with like an automobile, things like that. From some people have to take steps to do it. These people, it's just natural for them. It becomes one and the same. So can they hack other people's brains? Yes. They're just not doing it with a keyboard, or maybe they're not doing it with a keyboard you can see. It might be holographic, but they can. So what we would consider radio connections and hacking actually comes across as psychic, right? So yeah, it is a bit of telepathy. There is a bit of that, or it seems like that. So yeah, absolutely. I guess you could call it like radio telepathy. There isn't any telekinesis, at least not yet. Uh, Imagining this Obsidian Star game becoming so popular that people will want to know what's outside the Oort cloud, and maybe incorporating some aliens or something like that at some point in the future. I would hold that true, but for right now, no, that's not the case. Right now, it's about like the brilliance, it categories of brilliance for these individuals. Some of it is internal, intrapersonal, going into their minds to correct problems in their own minds. Uh, Interaction, the brilliance of interacting with the natural world, accepting your own intuition, things like that. So, and there's categories, and they're all categorized. I have to get into this document and update this shit. But yeah. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great weekend. Not great weekend. We're going to have a weekend tomorrow. We will overview Tenet that we already did, because we're going to go backwards. Anyway, you guys get the point. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time here. Also, let's do a call to action. If you've gotten here this long, please like, share, subscribe. Let other people know about the show. And don't be hesitant to throw in a couple of, join the conversation. This is a seat of the pants, unscripted RPG channel about science fiction, and we're just here to have some fun. And I'm just I'm just a moderator for your brilliance. So sure. Yeah, surely there must be some kind of virtual sex thing like in Demolition Man. Oh hell yes. Oh hells yes. Don't know what I'm going to call them. I would like some things. Yeah, can't like it twice. Yeah, but hey, happy Vice Friday. Happy Vice Friday, you guys too as well. Uh, everybody, get pre-drinking for your long weekend. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility.